I had a moment this week where what I knew in my head just clashed with who I was as a person.
Oh dear, it sounds like you were experiencing a gap between your rational thinking and then your instinctive reactions.
Yeah, it's yes, a little bit like that. So I basically discovered why my son's big emotions don't just stay with him, but somehow detonate something inside me as well. I'll come into it, but before that, welcome to Life in the Grey, a Mums at the Table podcast where we sit in the messy middle of relationships and growth and admit that knowing better doesn't always mean doing better. I'm Melody, project leader of Mums at the Table.
I'm Faith, and I spend my time looking at the ways psychology and spirituality work together in our everyday lives. And you can find most of my work on Instagram at Hope Channel Singapore. So, Mel, you were talking about detonation, internal detonation. You want to tell us more about that?
Yes. So I think I've shared this before multiple times about how I struggle to stay calm when my child has big emotions. There's something about it that really just hits a nerve. My voice will sharpen, I react, usually badly. And well, actually always badly. And almost immediately after, right, I feel this wave of guilt because in my head I know the right thing to do, sit with them, validate, let the emotion ebb and fall. I mean, we talked about it all in our episode on emotional regulation. But knowing and doing are two very different things.
Yeah, it's the classic human tension, right? Where our spirit is willing, but our nervous system is overwhelmed. We want to be the calm parent, the calm person, but then something inside our body is telling us that there's an emergency that needs a sharp response. And it's not a moral failure, it's a nervous system reflex. And a lot of times it's a reflex that was learned a very long time ago.
You know
Oh.
what? This is actually what I came the epiphany I had, right? It's
Mm.
funny because you know what you said, right? That this is something that happened a long time ago. I know all of this, right? Intellectually, it's like, oh, family of origin, patterns, triggers, generational trauma, whatever it is, I know the language. It wasn't until so I was recording an episode for our other podcast, Mom to Mom with Dr. Tesh, a not so subtle plug. Anyway, but yeah, something that she said just landed differently. I knew about the history, I knew about the family origin, but then she said something, and suddenly all the memories just came back in a way that was less theoretical. And suddenly that's when it dawned on me. I wasn't taught to sit with the big emotions. It actually clicked. Hang on. The reason why I'm having all these big emotions when my son has big emotions is because I wasn't taught to sit with them. This is not criticism of my parents or the many other significant adults in my life. Like it's not that. I know they love me. I know they were doing the best they could. But the reality was that as a child, I discovered that, you know what? The message that I got was big feelings were inconvenient, especially when it comes to sadness and anger. If I expressed them, I was either, reprimanded or distracted. And the emotion was something to move past very quickly, to tidy up, to suppress. No one actually modeled to me what it looked like to sit inside an emotion without trying to fix it or shut it down. So, yeah, like you said, when my son expresses those emotions, of course, my nervous system is going danger. This is not allowed. Shut it down. And I react and yeah, it's just suddenly go, hang on. This is actually generational and this is why I'm reacting.
Is such an amazing epiphany. It's I guess it's like the ghost in the nursery, right? Where our reactions to our children's, or not every for me without having kids, but even just to other people's big emotions are often just echoes of how our big emotions were handled when we were small.
You know, it was very interesting to me because I knew all this. I've been trying to work through all this for years, right? And I always knew about, that it's something that's happened. And you talk about this ghost in the nursery, right? With the ghost in the nursery, at least you got shades of it. Like sometimes you feel cold, sometimes you see. Okay, we're talking get too supernatural here, but you know, you get shades of it, right? But I don't. I didn't think I had that. And that's why I couldn't recognize it, right? And so for the longest of time, I'm struggling and I'm going, why am I having all these big emotions? When my son's having these big emotions, why can't I just be calm? And it was, I don't know why it took this many years, but suddenly in that many years, in that split second in which she said something, I suddenly got that epiphany.
Well, it takes however long it takes. Sometimes that's how life and learning works. Everything came together at the right time. You spoke to someone who happened to use the right words that landed in just the right. Everything is a confluence of all these factors. It just happened. The question that I have then is, now that you know, what are you going to do?
It's something she said as well. I think it was part of that that triggered it as well. But before I go into what I'm going to do, which I will, but I just wanted to mention a little bit more about this whole realizing an epiphany, right? And I think what I wanted to share as well is the fact that everything that we do does stem from a family of origin and things that have happened to us, whether we recognize it or not. And even if we don't recognize it, right? I think maybe it's a one day it will happen, but if not, right, it's also recognizing that it is not your fault in that sense. And I think that was where that was one of the epiphanies I had as well, because for the longest of time, it's a what is wrong with me? I was starting to cry. It's a what is wrong with me? Why can't I sit with these big emotions? Why don't I have the capability to do that? And now it's discovering that, hang on, yes, there is I'm not criticizing my parents, I'm not criticizing my family members, but there is a reason for all that's been happening. Whew. Anyway, so I'm just I guess I just want to let people know that, if you do find that what is wrong with you, there's nothing wrong with you. And it's just something that you haven't been able to uncover. And it's not your fault, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
When we get to the space that we can acknowledge that there's a gap, something powerful happens because we can stop asking what is wrong with me and instead start to ask, how can I support myself?
And I think this goes into that question that, I didn't answer initially and went into a crying rampage instead. What am I going to do about it is the fact that recognizing the fact that, yes, it's what happened to me as a kid. I can't change that. But there is a certain standard and a certain kind of childhood and experience that I want my son to have. And so the only thing I can change is the experience that he has. And I think we talked about it before as well in our other conversations about this concept of healing forwards. And yeah, yes, in a way I can heal myself in how I sit with big feelings, but that's going to take a lot of time because I've had a whole lifetime of not being able to sit with my feelings. But my son has a whole lifetime in front of him of having the experience where he can sit with his feelings.
Mhm.
And so that's where I need to focus on, is to fight the difficult feelings in myself and he doesn't need to know all of that, but to heal it, to have it in such a way that he has that healed pathway to move forward to.
He has a different pathway to move forward to, a different experience than what you had, which will set him up for a different response, right? A different pattern.
Different types of
And-
trauma that he gets, not the
Well, that's a whole different story. But I wonder if it's less of fighting your emotions and more of sitting with them and figuring out why they want to step forward, why these this emotions that you have, these big emotions that you have, feel the need to protect you, and what are they really protecting you from, right? And I don't know if it's about fighting. It's more of understanding,
I guess.
right? Because in a way, you are still healing forward. I see it as you are healing forward the future self, your future you.
That's true.
So in any case, future mom is going to benefit from whatever you do right now. And it's not easy. Starting something, learning something new is never easy. This is the part that we got to get brave. You got to get brave because yes, you can rise from the ashes, as they so speak, right? But first you got to burn. And that burn's not going to be easy. It's going to be very uncomfortable.
But yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is the change. And I like what you said about, when I think about healing forwards, right? Because I think about it in the concept of generational trauma. So it's like, I can't heal the past generation. I can't heal this generation, so I'll heal the next generation. And so for me, equating that to I'm healing my son. But yes, you are right. It's about healing my future me as well. And giving myself the ability to feel more comfortable sitting with whatever it is. And yeah, that's me with big feelings, but it could be someone else with whatever it is as well. And it's about just making it easier and making it a better place for themselves in the future. It doesn't have to be the next generation. It could just be the future them.
I'm wondering if now I can share with you a line that you shared with me that shifted my brain chemistry. Because I
I
mean,
know what it is.
you do. Okay, why don't you say it then? Because if you think you know what it is, so why don't you share? Because when you said this line, it shifted my brain chemistry. So I think it's important that present you can then shift future you's brain chemistry right now with your own words.
It's what I use for New Year's resolutions as to why I don't believe in New Year's resolutions and why I want to do change. But, I don't see it as an emotional thing. But yes, it does make sense. So it's basically, my life philosophy. The best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago, but the next best time is now. And yeah,
Sweet.
so the only direction available to me is forward, while recognizing that, I think, healing forwards isn't going to erase the old wiring because it's what I'm used to. It's why I think that explains why I react so quickly, so immediately, because we've said it before, it's the highway and we just get onto the highway. It's what we're used to. It's what we're raised on. It's what we don't sit with the uncomfortable feelings. It's what I'm raised on. But I hope to be able to find the off ramp a lot quicker so that I can heal it forward for my child so that they know that they are safe with their big emotions and also that I will eventually get the message that I am safe in my emotions. And yeah, hopefully the recovery will be quicker, the repair will be gentler.
Oh, definitely. It's neurobiologically accurate. Seriously.
Okay,
We're
thanks.
not stuck with the old wiring. It's not the only road we can choose. We are active participants always in growing something new. And yes, we can sometimes go back and judge ourselves by our old wiring because we're human. We're human. This is where we come back and say, oh, you know what? But we're planting new trees. And so it will take time for this little shrub to then start to grow into this big oak tree, but it will grow. And so, I forgot to water it yesterday. Okay, no, I'm going to water today. Oh, does it need a bit of more nutrients? Okay, I'm going to give it nutrients today. Let's look at what we're doing consistently. It's not about the one big burst today. It's about what little steps we can take every day, little bits. And honestly, I love that tree metaphor because for me, it took away the shame. It took away the shame often associated with the gap between what I know I'm supposed to do and how I actually behave. And it honestly dismantled this misguided belief that just because we didn't have the right wiring all those years back or months back, that somehow we missed this window to be a calm, validating person forever. That's such a misguided belief, right? Yeah. But
What
in
passed
actual
is
fact,
past.
yes, what passes past, and we can make a choice as what we plant. What are we growing? So we can go back to the old oak tree and then water it, or we can say, you know what? Today, I'm gonna walk in a different direction and go nurture that shrub or become a bush that in a few months' time maybe becomes a bigger. I don't know. I mean,
A little sapling will become a tree.
yes, yes, yeah. And so I guess the question that maybe we can all ponder upon this week is, what does planting or nurturing that little sapling to grow into a tree look like? A little things that we can do to nurture that sapling. And would love to hear your thoughts on that. So share them on whatever platform you're watching or listening to right now. And if you want to share more privately, please send an email to hello@momsattetable.com. And if there's one person in your life who really needs to hear today that they are not broken for having big reactions, big emotions, please share this episode with them. Life in the Grey is a Mums at the Table podcast. And thank you so much for sitting in the messy middle with us. Hey, this is Faye.
And I'm Melody.
We have a free digital 5-day self-compassion challenge just for you.
If you like a copy, simply comment with the word life now. That's LIFE.